Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Flameworking 102.70, making custom frit. So when we buy glass, it comes in rod, frit, or powder. And today I want to make my own custom frit out of some transparent colors and put them in some beads that I've been thinking about. So if you've never made your own frit, it is so easy to do. And I hope you're inspired to make some fun, unique custom frit for your own work too. And with that said, let's get right into it. As always, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time in the dungeon. All right, the first thing I'm going to use is a bowl, and I'm going to add some water to it. I made that bowl years ago when I used to blow glass. I loved making marinis. It was a lot of fun. All right, so I am going to get some transparent colors here ready. And I'll start out with this electric yellow, which is a really cool color that is a striking color. So when you get it nice and hot, you have to let it cool a little bit and then heat it back up and the color will develop. And I like to flatten a little bit of glass down, heat it up, and then just dip it right into the water. I like to flatten it out because I feel like it breaks apart a little bit more evenly instead of just heating up a ball and dipping it in water. All right, my second color is this, the dark Aqua Blue. Beautiful blue color, and it works great with this yellow. It does have a slight reaction with the yellow because blue and yellow turn brown when they are mixed together. But it can also give a slight kind of greenish hue as well when it is on top of itself or on top of each other. And if you need to, you can just kind of tap into the bowl and break some of that frit up. And last but not least, I have this really nice gold ruby. And I'm just going to heat this up as well, flatten it out. You don't have to flatten it out, but I find that it just, like I said earlier, it breaks up a lot nicer. I'm going to go over here and let it set up for a second. And sometimes it doesn't crack up right off the bat. Sometimes it will take a few seconds to break down into the water. All right, now that we have, what I did was I went through all of those twice to get enough frit. And then I'm just going to pour it into a sieve to get all the water out. And from there, I grab my bowl again and put a coffee filter in it. And I just put the frit right in there and let it sit overnight. And then the next day, where's the next day? Here's the next day. It's nice and dry. And now let's go ahead and break it up a little bit. You can use it like it is, but there's still a lot of glass that needs to be broken up into smaller amounts. So you can tap on it with a spoon. I like to crush it down with a spoon like this and really, really get it just ground down. And that is our final mix. And you definitely want to sift out the very fine powders. Okay, so now we have just our frit mix to use. And in our frit mix, we have large, medium, and small frit all mixed together. So I'm just going to lay that out on my little marvering pad here. And yeah, I just love the way this looks. So let's go ahead and use it in a bead. All right, so I am going to start out with a base of white. And this is a real simple, I don't want to say simple, but this is a on the easy side demonstration, depending on how many wraps you do at the end when you're encasing it with the clear. It's not really encasement, we're just adding wraps. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So let me go ahead and add a little bit of this white to the mandrel. And I want it a little on the longer side, so I'm just going to add my first footprint bead and then heat some glass up and go ahead and start to wrap my mandrel up a little bit. And just about 3 wraps is what I have here. These aren't very, these aren't huge beads. So I'm just going to start out by rolling everything out and getting a nice basic shape to then continue with. Sometimes I am at a loss for words. All right, so I want this actually a little bit longer. So after I have done all this work on my edges, I decided that I just kind of want it slightly longer on both sides. So what I'm going to do here is just add a little bit of white. This is also a really great way if your edges are not perfectly straight. This is a nice way to kind of straighten them up. I'll add a little bit of glass, not to the edge, but close to the edge of one side, and then just heat that up. And using the cool side of the bead, I will guide myself down into kind of I'll roll it out into a nicer shape on the end. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Just a little tiny wrap of glass. And like I said, I'm doing this because the edge of my bead has a slight waver to it. If you don't, if that's not a big deal to you, then you can just keep going. But I want more of a crisp, straight edge here. So I just add a little bit of glass to the side, and then roll from my cool side into the hot side. And usually that really helps to clean up the edges and make them nice and straight. All right, a little bit more rolling. Working on my edge. And now what I am getting ready to do is when I have everything the way I like it, and it can take time, I want to get into my Frit mix. All right, so now that I have my bead the way I like it, let's mess it up again. So I'm going to heat up my bead and just gently roll right into the Frit mix. I'm not going to pick up a very even amount because I'm basically picking up the Frit that's the highest as you roll. So I'm going to go ahead and start heating that in, and I heat it in kind of in the back of the flame, and I never heat the whole bead up to where the Frit just immediately will melt all the way and flatten out on its own from the heat. I like to coax it down a little bit by heating and rolling and heating and rolling until it gets to a nice flat surface. And then here, if I want to, I can pick up a little bit more. I'm going to move that out of the way so you can see it better. I just want to pick a little bit more up on these edges. And I also like to add a little bit more so some of this Frit is overlapping other colors. I'm just going to grab a little bit on the other side. You can't really predict exactly where you're going to pick up the Frit, but that's kind of the joy of working with Frit. It's kind of off the cuff. All right, now that I have all the frit that I want, I'm just going to roll it down, smooth it down a little bit at a time. And because I have like the gold ruby in there, I do want to be careful of overheating it in the flame. I don't want to burn out that gold ruby. I want a nice neutral flame as I am heating and rolling. And there's so much you can do with the frit, but what I am going to do here is just take a little clear glass stringer, and I am going to come in and just kind of heat different sections and give it a couple of twists here and there to kind of pull those colors together and make them look a little bit more interesting. So a little bit of heat, spot heating, and then I'll go in and I'll push and twist some of that frit. And we'll do this in just a couple spots here and there. I just love the way that the colors tend to swirl around each other. And you get just a really unique look as well. Because frit never lays down the same twice. Okay, and I think that that is looking pretty good. So let me go ahead and just start to smooth everything down. We're going to add several wraps of clear glass on this. So I want to make sure I have a nice smooth surface and a decent looking bead before I continue. Just pulling in my edges a little bit here. And because we have the gold ruby and the electric yellow, these colors, they're kind of striking colors. So you want to develop those colors in the heat. So those colors will come out after they've cooled down a little bit, and then you go back to heat them up. All right, so let's go ahead and start adding all of our clear. And I'm going to add several wraps around this bead to achieve the vertebrae pattern. So I'm going to add my first one right kind of real close to the edge. It doesn't have to be right on the edge, but close to it. And I am also trying to lay down a thick amount of the clear, not just a trail, like a trail wrap, but a thicker wrap around the clear. Depending on how wide the clear lays down, you will get a slightly different effect. And at the very end, I felt like it was kind of naked right there, so I added a very tiny wrap of clear right on the edge. And once we've done those wraps, you're just going to follow again. And it's a little bit easier after you've gotten those wraps on there. If your wrap is not perfectly straight on its channel that it lays down on, it's okay. It can actually enhance the bead even more. Okay, so we've gotten 2 wraps on everything. If you are comfortable with that, then go ahead and start melting it down. But I like to add a little bit more. I'm going to add 3 wraps on each one. And I try real hard not to get the wraps to touch each other. That's kind of the beauty of this effect, because when you go to melt it down, the colors that you did not trap under the clear will rise up to the surface, and the clear pushes what's under it down, giving you this really cool pattern. So now that I have all my glass on here, I'm heating kind of on the side, and we have about a good inch of glass. So I'm going to heat everything up, and I kind of focus on kind of an angle, which helps me to get all of those wraps warm. And after that, I will start to just go straight in to those wraps with my heat, getting them to just slowly compress down into the glass. So I'm moving things around the whole time. I never really just stay in one spot unless I need to. And it just takes a little bit of time. In the middle of this heat, things start to look real strange and awkward and very off center. And I just kind of maintain everything. I'm going to pull in my side just a tiny bit here. And you can see that clear glass is almost already incorporated into the color base. So I'm going to continue heating. And just with time and heat and patience, I'm just waiting for everything to get as round as possible. All right, so at this point, we are just about done here. I'm just going to let it cool down. And I always let it cool down for a good 20 seconds. And at that point, the inside is still a little warm, but the outside needs a little bit of extra heat before I put it away. And that is our Frit Mix vertebrae bead, you guys. I hope you enjoy. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time in the dungeon.